So today, episode 3, we are going to focus on habits, routines, stuff that you could probably talk about for weeks. Stuff that I would say you're quite passionate about. Would you say so?
Daughters and wife would say obsessed.
Yeah.
My daughter's funny story. Sorry, can I cut in? My daughter asked to go to the gym with me. She's like, can I come in your cardio mornings? And I take her to school and I agreed to it. And she says to me last night, can I come tomorrow morning? And I says, no, Thursday. And she says, why? And I says, because I need to reschedule like my routine. And she went, Mum says that's why you would say no. Because I'm like, I need a couple of days to.
None of my plan.
I'm going to have to change when I get up, drink my coffee. Because driving you to school means I need to leave the gym 30 minutes before I usually do, but I still need to get everything done. So I need to find the 30 minutes. So I'm a little bit obsessive, I would say, with stuff like that.
Safe to say.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that, you know, when you do kind of look at your habits and do look at your routines, I do think it is something that helps a lot of people. And getting good habits into place and good routine and a good structure does make a massive difference to people. And we've seen that sort of over the years. But what sort of role do you think habits play in a successful career in anything, in sales or just in anything in general?
Oh, we talk about good habits or bad habits?
Both. We'll focus on the good.
I think they can wreck careers. I think if you have the
positives.
wrong habits, you can wreck a career.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of would have been great football players and fighters in Scotland who had some bad habits the weekend that probably prevented them from being the next superstar and lost their contracts, right? Yeah. So it depends on the habits we're talking about. So it can help your career, it can also hinder your career. I think they play a huge part in general life and career. We're creatures of habit. That's it. And not to get, I don't want to go too deep and too psychological. For me, the more things that are habit, a couple of things. Number one, the more good habits I have, the more good things are going to happen, right? So if I do more good than I do bad, then it should equal more good at the end of the day. But also like having brain space and the capacity to take on more stuff and learn more things, because your brain, we keep saying we wish we had a whiteboard, but your little, and if there's anybody watching this that's medically trained, you'll probably correct me if you want, it's fine, but I'll give you my version of it. Your conscious brain can only hold so many things at the one time. So I guess your brain ever kind of died. You know, when you get brain fog or you just die and you can't think and it's like your brain switches off. Once you get too much stuff going around your conscious brain, your brain actually does shut down. It's kind of like a wee overload. So having a habit is something that you'll do repetitively without thinking about it, which means it's subconscious. Yeah. So the more good things I can do without having to think about it, then the more the conscious part of my brain's kind of freed up to think about things that are actually happening here and now and take in new information. So I think when you've got something that's important for your career, the quicker you can just make that something that you just do automatically, rather than something you have to think about doing, the quicker you can kind of clear that wee brain and that wee bit of your brain, so you can learn something or take on more responsibility. So that's it. And I think it also appeals to your lazy nature. Like you'll get a lot more done without really thinking about it. So you don't feel like you're doing much. Do you know what I mean? Like I think there comes a point when you go to the gym where, I mean, it's happening to me right now. I'm going through a phase of boredom in the gym, but I can't not go. It's just what I do. It's a habit. Yeah. It's just I'm addicted to it. So when I don't do it, I feel weird, because a habit is something that you just do. So when you don't do it, your body goes, oh, a bit weird. It's like, you know what I mean? If you're missing that coffee you have at the same time every single morning. So good or bad, if you're used to going out on a Friday night and maybe, I mean, good or bad habit depending on your view, and then you don't, something will just not feel right about it. So I think getting good habits, and that's different for everybody. Not everybody wants to go to the gym or be healthy, that's fine. But habits that add value to your life and habits that add value to you and add value to your career. And again, for me, it's not about being perfect and having no bad habits, but I would definitely say if I get more good habits than bad, because we'll have bad, we'll have things, right? Yeah. I'll never give up caffeine, even if I knew it was going to cost me 10 years of my life. There's just things that, and it's a habit. It's just, I know I could break it, but I enjoy it far too much.
So it becomes almost you do it on an autopilot and you do it without thinking and you do it on that subconscious level.
You kind of have to do it.
Yeah.
It's a practice. It just needs to get done. It's just part of who you are and what you do every day.
Yeah,
100%. If you're somebody who's in sport and you got a habit of eating healthy, or you the habit of training, or like that's gonna help you. But when you don't do it, it feels weird because it's not, because it is, I suppose, a habit for me. You become it. It's just who you are. It's just what you do. It's funny actually when I go on holiday, and people always question me when I come back and they go, Did you eat loads of rubbish? Did you drink alcohol? Did you take some time off the gym? And I'm like, no, I got up at 6 and I went. And this might seem really weird to people, but some of the things I do in my life are just that much. They're just that much indented, and I suppose a habit, and a really strong habit, and just who I am as an identity. And I have went on holiday and tried not to go to the gym, but I just feel off and weird because my brain's like, no, we usually do this thing every day. Why are we not doing this thing? What's wrong? And then I think once you break one, it can screw up a lot of other ones. So because I know I feel better by doing these habits, I make sure that we continue doing them and I don't break it. So a holiday for me, if I break those habits, I start to feel weird, which is not a holiday because I don't feel as good.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting what you said in the beginning there, where you said that it gives you more brain space.
Yep.
So I think there's certain things that you do them, like going to the gym in the morning, that's your headspace time because you're doing an activity that you don't have to think about. So you don't have to think about going to the gym because it's such a habit. That's when you've got your time to think about everything else, and that's where you do your best thinking and processing of stuff, because you're doing it like more, I guess, natural and something that's part of your being already, so you don't have to think about that.
It's no effort. I don't have to talk myself into it. I don't have to argue with myself, fight myself. I don't have to think about the physical effort. It's just my body just knows it's going to go do that.
Yeah.
And you're right, actually, there's been I make all my decisions in a gym or in a sauna first thing in the morning, because you're right, for me, that's probably the biggest habit that I have. Which is not a bad habit to have. Sometimes I feel like it's the worst habit to have and I wish I never had it. But, I went to a psychologist once and she asked if I meditated, actually, and I says no. And then she's like, tell me what you do then to relax and make decisions and all that. And I explained that to her, and she's like, it's actually a form of meditation.
Yeah.
Because it's something you do to have a clear space. I don't know if that's related to habits, but yeah.
So we know the importance or what role that habits do play in a successful career. What are some common ones that you've seen in people that do, kind of high performers or kind of people that perform at an elite level? Have you seen any common trends amongst those people and what they do? If so, what?
There's loads. That's why I'm pulling a face. You could do
Where
a whole
to begin?
podcast on that. Yeah, you could do a common denominators. I've got a number and how many?
Top 3.
They're always learning.
Okay.
They're always learning. They're just always, like, again, clearing up space so that you can learning's like, I actually run this meeting before and I was thinking about it the other day, and I don't know why it popped into my head when we're talking about learning. Learning's no different from a phone upgrade. Like, if you look at the iPhone and how many variations of the iPhone we've had since it came out, I don't know, what was it, 12 years ago?
Yeah, what
But
are we
there's
now,
updates
15?
all the time. They're always updating it. There's an update every 2 weeks now. But all they're doing is updating again, if somebody's technical, don't shoot me for this, they're updating the software.
He's not.
They're not. They're updating the software all the time. But some people themselves don't get in the habit of learning and trying to avoid. And I know some people, and it's fine for them. But for successful people, they're never happy with an upgrade. They're always looking for the next upgrade. The same way you're always excited about the next upgrade. More people are more excited about upgrading the phone than upgrading themselves.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing I've noticed in any book I've read, it can be sports personalities, business people. I've even read stuff in politicians, and and they've all got that one thing, which is they're all really avid learners. They all really thoroughly enjoyed learning stuff, but for their own evolution. Like, they don't seem like they read books for fun, but they enjoy it as fun to them, but they're reading books to learn. I watched an interesting thing once, it was on Netflix, and it was about Bill Gates. love or hate the guy, he's a genius, and you know, anybody that's made billions of dollars in any industry, you know, you got to give them
They know a
the
thing or two.
props, right? You got to give them. It doesn't matter how they make it. You know, they make it in UFC, owning it. They make it in fighting. They make it being a YouTuber. You got to give them the props. But I remember watching an interview with one of his mates, and they were talking about how intense he is about learning and getting better. And one of his friends, don't quote me in the exact wording, but one of his friends was like, I went on holiday with Bill, and I watched him read 14 books in 7 days whilst on holiday, and he's like, that's his idea of relaxing.
Well, like yours is the gym, I suppose, similar.
Of course, right, but that's
Yeah.
his. He's like, yeah, that was him in a break for 7 days, just went through 14. Even the thought of reading 14 books, right? Mm-hmm. But if you watch any successful entrepreneurs, even in sport, they might not read books, but they're always obsessed by getting to the next. Ronaldo was always obsessed by jumping a wee bit higher and going faster. Like, you look at any sports stars, they were just they're just really obsessed by being a better version of themselves all the time. That's the first habit.
Also, I mean, I don't know how relevant it is to habits, but one thing about kind of the always learning and talking about Bill Gates, because I've seen the same thing on YouTube. And what was interesting about that is none of the books were related. So it wasn't all just about like leadership or tech or whatever. Like, I'm sure one was about ancient Egypt, and they were a bit of everything, but it was just the addiction to learning.
Yep.
That's what he was kind of doing. So it doesn't have to be always so kind of laser focused on one specific topic or one specific area. It can be quite general.
Yeah. I've noticed that with them, but you're right. They're obsessed by everything, not just one thing. They're not into that. But that's how these really successful people, let's just say business people for it, end up involved with different things, because they'll read, they'll learn about something, they'll gain some interest, they'll dive deep into it before you know they're in that industry, right? Somebody will go from making cars to AI to taking people to Mars, and you know, that's just because they are obviously obsessed by learning. They learn something new. But back to the why they're obsessed with being good. Like, if you're not upgrading yourself week by week, month by month, and not huge, you don't have to read 14 books in a week. It takes me a month to read a book. I don't enjoy reading. I read purely because I know that getting information from other people, reading about other people's stories and getting more information is just going to make me a more knowledgeable, confident entrepreneur, right? And I'm very careful about the books I read, because again, I don't read for fun. So, but you don't have to read books. You can listen to podcasts now. You can do audio. You can visually watch stuff. There's loads of different ways. You got YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever other platform you can go and read articles on, LinkedIn, whatever. So you don't have to actually pick up a book and read it these days. But I think the first common denominator with successful people is they're really, really avid learners, and they're never happy with where they're at, and they're always trying to get a wee bit better regardless of how good they are.
Great. So habit 1, always learning. Habit 2?
I've got an obsessive nature. They're obsessed with winning. They're really obsessed by winning. Actually, I watched a show. It was called Billions, and I remember talking to you about this. I didn't watch it because I liked the show. I watched it because the whole thing was about, the show's called Billions, so it's evidently all about billionaires and the people with this amount of money and how they operate, which was good. One, it was quite inspiring to watch what someone like that would live like, because obviously they're based on a lot of kind of true facts. It was quite fascinating. But two, just watching somebody, and again, this was fictional, but it just is, I suppose, a good illustration of how these people get there in the first place, not only get there, but stay there. But just how obsessed by winning at every single little thing. And you watch some of these guys, and if you watch even an Elon Musk go buy Twitter, right, lost money on it, but he's just obsessed by winning and being better. Like, creating people going to Mars is nuts, and he might not even see it in his lifetime, but he's and they're all obsessed by being the first to do something, right? So I think an obsessive nature over being not just the best in their industry, but everything they do is just a competition. They're just obsessive winners, terrible losers, and people who are willing to do whatever it takes to win. And sometimes when I've researched people or even watching a show, they were willing to lose money just to win.
Yeah.
Just for the win.
Just for that buzz.
Yeah. Again, best sports people in the whole entire world are the people who are willing to do whatever it takes to win, right? Their winners are terrible losers. Yeah, and the best winners are also the worst losers, because they absolutely hate it and they're so fixated on it. So I say the second one, if I was to choose, it's just their obsession in winning, even when they've made it to what most people would deem would be the top, they're still obsessed by it. I actually seen another podcast not that long ago, and there's a guy called, I'm sure his name's Rob Moore. I'm sure it might not have been him, but anyway, they were talking about how if you make 20 million, on top of 20 million pounds income, or you've made your first 20 million, is such a nice number, because it's a nice enough number where you can go away and live a really wonderful, luxurious life for the rest of your life, right? You and your family would be, you're set at 20 million. You've made enough money to live the best life possible, but you've not made too much where you're on the radar. And so when you go above that, you start to go on people's radars and magazines and whatever lists you start to go on, right? Government lists, whatever. But he's like, but no one ever stops at 20, because the person who gets to 20 can't stop. They're like, why would they? He's like, no one ever stops there when that would be a good number. But the guy that gets to 20 goes, wait a minute, if I'd done 20 once, what if I could do it twice and 3 times and 4 and 5?
Much more, yeah.
Yeah, guy gets to 100 mil, goes, if I 10 times this, that would be $1 billion. But it's just the obsessive nature by winning. I've definitely got that nature, which is why I say I don't ever think about retirement and not do it. I couldn't function. My wife says, because I'm just obsessed by getting a little bit better, which is good, because when I see that in other people, I see that I've got that trait. It can also be quite detrimental sometimes, because you're not really going to be happy or satisfied a lot of the time. But that's the one thing. Even people that are worth, 100 billion or 200 billion, and just watching the hours that they still do and how obsessed by being the best in their field is. So yeah, first trait would be learning. Second habit would be how obsessed they are by winning.
And third one?
Attention to detail. They understand. The people that play at the very top understand the little things matter. They understand the attention to, somebody who's the top of the field in aerodynamics understands the difference a millimetre in a screw can make on a whole plane or a ship, right? And this might be bad examples of it, but they are. One of my coaches used to always say the devil's in the detail. Small holes sink big ships, he used to say all the time.
100%.
Small holes sink big ships. So these people, to other people working with them, might be quite anal, right? And people have sometimes says to me in my career, why are you making such a big deal out of this? It's not a big thing, it's not life or death. And I'm like, but it is life or death. Yeah. That small, tiny crack can eventually become a hole that can eventually dismantle the whole thing. So I think that, again, you're making me pick one here, but when I look at those people, the devil's in the detail. They're perfectionists, but everybody thinks that's them being quite anal, but they just understand how important the tiniest of things is, and how the tiniest of things can be a catalyst to success or failure.
Yeah, and you also don't know what it could be, so it's important to check everything and make sure everything's at kind of optimal, because you don't know what could be the one thing that you might miss that could be the downfall.
Nah, you never know. And then if it did fail, you'll always wonder if it was that one wee tiny thing you didn't care that much about that made it do. So again, that goes back to the obsessed nature and also doing it. I thought of one more actually. I'm going to say 4.
You don't like rules, do you?
There's no, I don't like rules. There's another trait I realise in them all is, rules are there, but there's you can
boundaries are made to be broken.
You can stretch them, right? But actually, talk about rules, man. Another thing one of my coaches used to say all the time is, he who holds the gold makes the rules. Yeah. So the rules are there, but actually the most successful people make the rules, so they change them when they feel like it, as we all know, whether you like it or don't. Yep. But they're all big thinkers. Yeah. They're all big thinkers. Sports personalities. Mayweather was thinking about winning world championships when he was 8 or 9. He was talking about it when he was 8 or 9. Even his gran was talking about 8 or 9. I watched Nadal win his first major, and someone says to Nadal, this must be nice to win it. I'm sure it was him or Federer for the first time. And he's like, I've been winning this since I was 8. It's not my first time. The reporter was really confused. They're like, it's not my first time. They're like, yeah, it is. Yeah. And he's like, I've been winning this since I was 8. Like, if you look at a Musk or a Bezos, I actually seen a very interesting thing about Jeff Bezos, that his an Amazon a golden rule as they talk in 5 years. So in 2024, all the meetings he has is about what's happening in 2029, and all the things that are happening in 2025 were all meetings they had in 2020. So these people, and Musk talks in generations and 100 years, and so I think their ability to look as far into the future as possible, and then the further up the food chain you go, people, all the wealthy families in the world, they talk in generations.
Yeah.
So I think these people have just got an ability to think way outside their box and their world, and think way further ahead. Again, if the kid's playing football at 8 and one's thinking about winning the game at the weekend and one's thinking about playing for Barcelona when they're 18, who's going to give it more? The person thinking about playing for Barcelona. So we call it thinking big, having a vision, having a purpose. But I think they've all got a knack for being able to kind of look into the future. Steve Jobs. Like, if you look at them all, you look at all these examples, they've all got a knack. Michael Jordan, like they've all at some point in their career, long before they were famous or long before their companies were anything, they just knew where it was going to go. They're visionaries. They're visionaries of the game, right? When Jordan started out, the guy who hired Michael Jordan, actually, he was a visionary because he says Michael Jordan was going to change the game when nobody knew him when he was at high school. So I think the best people have also, and a habit they've got, is they don't just look at the 2 foot in front of them. They're very good at figuring out how to see into the future and kind of plan ahead. It's kids. Actually, I was with my office I spend every weekend with my children. I got 5, as anybody who watches this knows, and it's just brilliant watching my 3-year-old and her wee mind and her imagination and her beliefs, and listening to my kids talking about when they're famous and just how big you think when you're a kid. I think we lose that as adults, and we're taught to be serious. Well, for some people, not for everyone, right? I think all social media platforms are really good this day because people are exposed to big picture and see what's possible. So you can't really blame your bubble anymore. Can't really blame your parents or your school or that, because if you've got a phone and you've got TikTok or social media, there's plenty of examples of people that are in much better situations. But I call it living in la la land, and I'm always trying to live further in front. And I suppose I've got a mate who we both know who says, he always says, never lose the dream. He always says that. It's really wee bit, never lose a dream in itself is quite cheesy when you're in Scotland. It's not a Scottish, it's very much an American saying, isn't it? It's very, Scottish people do this when you think about that. They're like, oh, that's quite cheesy, but it's true. I think a lot of people do lose it. Yeah, society's got a good way of beating the dreams out of your head and telling you to be things like, be reasonable and be serious and come back to reality, and you're always dreaming. My sister used to get upset at me for it, and loads of people would say to me, actually, that's where I got La La Land from. People would say to me, you're in La La Land. And I don't think there's anything. One, when you're in La La Land, you're a wee bit happier, to be fair.
Yeah, you're having a great time.
Yeah. I think you have to think big and think ahead, even if it's, something. We talk about Musk and Bezos and all these people, and, I'm not going to invent something that's going to change the world. But I think you have to get good at thinking about, because your future life, going to come whether you like it or whether you don't. Well, hopefully it comes for you, right? Hopefully you get to a point. So at some point when you're 20, you're going to be in your 30s and 40s, and all going well in your 30s and 40s, you're going to be in your 50s and 60s. So it's going to happen. But all the stuff you do just now, as because there'll be people not for Glasgow watching us, all the stuff you do just now is going to determine what that life looks like. So every action has a reaction, right? So the life that, for me personally, I always say the life that I live just now was the one that I spoke about when I was in my 20s. I thought I'd have it in my 30s and never, for whatever reasons, right? I've got it in my 40s now and I'm behind schedule, but it's all quite normal because I spoke about it for so long, and it's quite weird when you talk about something so long and then get there. But now for me in my head, I'm thinking about my 50s and 60s. Well, 50s isn't far away from me, it's in 5.5 years, but I'm generally starting to think about my 60s and what I would do with my 60s and what I'm going to do with my time. My kids will be older, what kind of lifestyle do I want to have, what kind of, for me, companies will own, what will my day-to-day look like, what will my travelling look like, and where do I have houses and where do I go on holiday, and that's La La Land for me. Do you know what I mean? But I think in amongst that, you've got to, I think you got to get in the habit of, there's got to be a better life. Do you know what I mean? Like when people, I think you just got to get in the habit of trying to think in the future, because the future is going to come whether you like it or whether you don't. And a lot of people live in regret, because when you get to 40 and realise that if you just done some stuff in your 20s and 30s, you'd have a better life in your 40s. And so again, it's not, I didn't naturally think like that. I just learned that entrepreneurs thought ahead and planned ahead. I remember being 23 and just, I didn't know what I wanted for my dinner that night, never mind what I was doing in 5 years. So I think a good habit to get into is one about thinking the life that's going to come in the future.
Yeah.
But I'm no Bezos or Musk. I'm not going to think in 100 years or 200 years or generational. So it'll be different for everybody. For some people, it might just be next year.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, so what we've established by the fact that you broke the parameters of pick 3 and you picked 4, that there are so many different areas that you could focus on. So if someone's like, right, I want to kind of develop some new habits, I want to kind of focus on some new things just to get even that little bit better. How do you pick what to prioritize? How do you pick where you put your focus, where you put your energy? Because you can't do everything at once. That you're just setting yourself up for failure if you do that, I think. So how do you narrow that down?
Can I give my opinion on what I think everybody should focus on first?
Of course you can.
I don't think all the other habits follow if you don't have the energy for it to follow. There's a reason why I get a habit of going to the gym and eating healthy, and that's because all the other stuff that I want requires a lot of work. But if I don't have the energy or the health, then the first habit would be a habit of you call it living your best life. When you say that phrase all the time, living your best life, I think that the taking care of yourself and looking like your brain like a computer system that needs the bugs cleaned all the time and needs to be functioning at a high level, needs to be a top computer that processes things fast. It has to have room to save new things. So I think mentally and physically making sure you can be at your best. That would be my first advice to anybody, is make sure you get the energy first, because trying to form any other habits on the back of that but you don't have the energy to do the stuff is useless. I watched a thing the other day, these TikTokers walking about with the microphones, and they're like, $10 million or wake up tomorrow. And everybody naturally picked wake up tomorrow, right? Because the money in the bank, but if you're not got your health.
There's no point, yeah.
Nah. So I think the first thing. But I think on a personal level, for everybody to pick what habit, because there are so many bloody things to do. There's so many different, not just only is there so many things that you can do, but there's so many variations of the things you can do, even being healthy.
Yeah.
How many variations of being healthy are there? How many different diets are there out there? How many different PTs with different views on what health looks like, right? Cardio, weights, functional, fighting, steroids, no steroids. Like there's loads of, I don't know if that's healthy, but in some people's heads that is healthy, right? So I think you just got to prioritise, I would say, the low-hanging fruit. What's going to be the easiest good habit for me to get into? Because habits also form confidence. So when you start doing more good than bad and you change a habit, it builds your belief system up in yourself. So confidence is trust. And the best explanation of confidence I've ever heard is confidence is trust. So if I have confidence in your ability to drive, it means I trust you drive. And if I have confidence in my ability to do something, it means I trust myself to do it.
Yeah.
So low-hanging fruit just means easy pickings. So don't go for the big habit change first. Do the small, easy changes and the quick wins, I suppose, and change those habits quickly. So the ones that are going to be the easiest for you to form, do those. Yeah. Because they'll build your belief system and your ability to form something into a habit and make the right changes and kind of build your way into it. The same way you would go in and you wouldn't run 5 miles if you've never ran before. You'd run half a mile and a mile and kind of build yourself up to it. So I think you've also got to build your own confidence. I think a mistake people make with habits is they try and make all these big changes quick and they try and change something too dramatic in their life. Somebody who, again, you see it with diets, somebody who doesn't eat healthy at all of a sudden goes on like a no carbs diet or something. They don't ever form a lifestyle habit. Maybe try like not eating carbs for 1 day and 2 days and just kind of, and that's just an example, right? Going for not training to training 6 days a week. Why don't I just try go to the gym twice a week? And so kind of ease yourself into your habits. But if I've got some low hanging fruits and things I really believe will be easy for me to do every day and to commit to doing, because you've got to consciously commit to a habit and consciously force yourself to do it till it becomes a habit. So I think they reckon, there's arguments, there's different studies, but I think they reckon it takes 21 days to form a habit. And again, if there's anybody that's done medicine or neuroscience, are probably going to get me in trouble for my explanation. It might not be the most the best medical way of explaining things, but every time you do something, there's a little neurological pathway formed in your head, right? And every time you do the same thing, so I go to the gym, neurological pathway, do something. It's kind of like reinforced concrete or steel. And once it gets to a certain strength, your brain recognises it's something you do and then puts in your subconscious.
Yeah.
Breathing, alphabet, 10 times table if you can do it, or 1+1, right? So when you do something, repeat the same action enough times, it then just becomes something that you can do. But to do it, you consciously have to get yourself to do it. So if I'm consciously trying to force myself to do something that's too hard in the beginning, and I don't follow through with it and it doesn't become a habit, I won't trust myself the next time I say I'm going to go form a habit. So I figure out what's the easiest win for me and the lowest hanging fruit, and I do that one first.
Yeah, I think if you go too big too soon, you set yourself up for failure. Yeah. Do Ben Lomond first instead of Mount Everest. Start small.
Yeah. I done Ben Lomond one week and went to Nevis the next and regretted that quickly. I'm like, I should have done that a couple of times then than that one.
Yeah, exactly. So how do the habits that you develop in your personal life, because something we've talked about a lot on another episode is that personal life and professional life, the lines are so blurred. So how do your personal habits have a knock-on effect to your kind of professional life and your professional career?
Well, they're married. One affects the other. It doesn't. Again, I think there's no separation. All right, let's just talk entrepreneurism. Let's go back to what we were saying as a habit. If you're obsessed by a sport, if you're obsessed by a business, if you're obsessed by an idea, if you're obsessed in being the best podcaster in the world, there's no switch off button. There isn't a switch off button. Both are interlinked and married, tied at a hip, whatever we want to call it. So I think the things you do in your personal life affect your work life, and I think the things you do in your work life affect your personal life. It's hard to distinguish between the both because you can't switch off. Again, if you're somebody who just does a job and you're not obsessed by becoming good and you just turn up and do your job and go home, yes, 100%. Those are two completely different parts of your life and you wear two different hats. But if you're somebody who's obsessed by being good at anything, then they too interswitch. So Van Rooten had some really bad habits at the weekend, let's say, right? Which I did have when I was young. And at the time I would have called them bad habits, I'd have called them really good habits. And
Just having fun here.
Go have a great time from a Friday to a Sunday. But then it would take me to the Wednesday to recover. Now, if I'm somebody who's let's just say when I was a sales rep, right? And I worked on commission. Do I believe if I hadn't went out to the weekends, I would have made higher commissions and more sales? 100%. Of course I would have.
Yeah.
If you're a sports person who goes out for a Friday to a Sunday, and then your job as sports person, you're not going to play as well on a Monday as you would if you'd stayed in and slept well. And so I think it knocks on. I think your relationships, I think mentally, let's forget physically, I think mentally, like this is something I'm a big advocate of. I'll never come to work when I've been in a dispute with my wife. I'll never come to work because I know that if there's something off in my relationship and that's bothering me in my head, I'm going to take that to work with me. I'm not going to be as focused as I could be. I'm not going to feel as good. I actually might screw my work up because I might snap at something or someone because I've got a problem there. I don't even go to sleep like that. I hate it. I think the longest I've been upset at my wife for, I think, shouldn't you give me in trouble for saying this? We had a wee tiff at the weekend. And I think we didn't speak for like 17 minutes. And I'm like, I can't do that.
17 minutes
so or something. Specific. Yeah, I'm like, I can't. I'm like, I can't do this because as soon as you're in a mood way, and that'll happen with mum, dad, kids, anybody, when you're close to someone in your personal life and you fall out with them, that's going to have a knock-on effect onto everything you do. Don't get me wrong, there's jobs in the past. I worked in a factory, I worked in a warehouse. I could be as miserable as I like and still do my job properly. But again, if you're somebody who's obsessed by growth and obsessed by doing things and being a perfectionist, if your mind's frustrated at anything, it's going to have an effect on it. So I think it's just as important to have good habits more important probably, good habits in your personal life for your work life.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's good. But they take more discipline because you're more loose.
Yeah.
As well. And you don't get paid for your personal life.
And I think there's a lot less visibility and a lot less accountability in it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in work.
Sure.
Yeah, if you're in work, you know other people will see that, or you know other people will know how you got on with that or whatever. Whereas in your personal life, no one's going to know. if you went to the gym or not, or if you ate well or not, or you could easily just keep that a secret, couldn't you?
Yeah. Someone used to say to me all the time, it's not what you do when people are watching, it's what you do when people aren't watching.
Yeah.
What do you do when no one's looking?
Yeah.
Again, it's why when I go on, again, on holiday, I eat well. I just, it's a habit. It's not for show.
Yeah.
It's not for sure, but it's harder. It's harder because no one is watching, and you could get away with it. And there's a little voice in your ear whispering, saying, "No one will know.
Yeah.
No one will know."
So when you do not follow through, or when you do fail, or when you do say, "I'm going to go to the gym and this is my new habit," and things like that, and you fail at it, how do you come back from that? How do you view that, and then how do you come back from it?
Don't make excuses. Own it, and then try again. And keep trying until you get it. But if you let's just call it 21 days to form a habit, right? Let's just say that. There's different studies done on how long it takes. So I don't know who to believe. And I've not done any of the studies, so I can't say for sure. But let's just call it 21 days. Let's say I get 6 days in.
Yeah.
I don't make excuses. Now, some people go in and go, what's the point in trying, and give up? I accept that I only done 6 days. I own it. I figure out what made me quit or what I could have done not to quit. And the next time I try and get to 7 days. And if I get to 7 days, I'm already winning. Now, if I get to 21 days that time, great. But if I get to 7 or 6.5, then I done better than the last time. And then I get back in the way. Like, I don't know how many times I says I was going to change my diet. I don't know how many times I says I was going to stop drinking. Like, I'd done it loads. I kept trying and trying and trying. And eventually I just done it. And I'm always going to change your habit. I don't know how many times I says I'd stop biting my nails. And we've all got good and bad habits. So, I remember getting up and every year I tell myself how many books I'm going to read. I'm still trying to form a habit of reading enough a year. I don't, it's a because I really don't enjoy it at all. I found other ways of learning, but, there's something about picking up a book. But I just own it and I just accept it. Admit it was too tough for you. Don't give excuses. Don't change your goals. Some people will go, I just don't want to lose weight anymore. I just changed, how I felt, and which is just an excuse and lies to yourself. It's just like, just own the fact that you weren't disciplined enough to follow through with it, and just shoot for a wee bit more the next time. And if you keep going back and try and make it a wee bit better every time, you'll eventually form the habit. People give up too quick, and then it's a year later when it's New Year's, and then they say this year again and that.
Yeah, well, they always wait till Monday.
Yes, it's just they break it on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And instead of breaking it on a Tuesday, owning it, and then getting to a Wednesday and going, all right, I done 2 days of health, and I broke it on a Tuesday night. All right, take it in the chin. I broke it, get over it. Wednesday start again and try and get to Friday.
Yeah.
And at least that way you're capable of 3 days, and maybe the next week you do 3 and a bit days in a week, slowly but surely. Because eventually if you keep chipping away at that, it will just, it's kind of like a sculpt. You're re-sculpting yourself, you're reinventing yourself, but that doesn't always. Just because you decide you're going to, not everybody's got the capacity to decide they're going to do something and then it's just done. Like, some of these things are major changes, right? Giving up. If you've got a bad habit, try to give that up as equally, if not more difficult than forming a new one. So sometimes before you form the new habit, you've got to give up the bad one first.
Yeah.
If you're somebody who eats takeaway every night, you can't all of a sudden just have a habit of eating healthy. You've got to figure out how not to eat takeaway every night first. And then, so for that person, it's 42 days. But if you just try and go from one extreme to the other, that's inevitably probably going to fail. If you go for eating like chips every night and curry sauce every night to eating chicken and salad.
Chicken and broccoli.
You're already,
breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Yeah, again, you got to think about if you're someone that wants to quit smoking and go to the gym, don't do both at the same. Just try and figure out how to quit smoking first and then go do it in the gym. But again, if you everybody falls off the wagon. Everybody does it. It's like if you watch, it's probably not the best thing to talk about, but I was watching a show with my wife on TV, and there was a woman who was an alcoholic in it. And you see this a lot in the show. I've only ever seen it in shows. I've never been to an AA meeting, right? But you see them in the shows where they go to these AA meetings, and I don't know if it's fiction or true, but I would imagine it's true because it's in every movie. And they'll say, "I'm James. I'm an alcoholic, and I've been sober. I've been sober for a day, but before that, they were sober for 4 years." And then they start counting the days again.
Yeah.
And they keep, they'll fall off the wagon, they'll get back on. You hear this with people with, drug habits and drink habits, and their habits, they're maybe not the best for people, but when they fall off the wagon, they might fall off the wagon for weeks, but then they make a decision to try and get back on the wagon again, and then they start counting the days again, and every day they do is a little bit more confident.
Yeah.
But if that person's always willing to get back on, I'm sure there's millions of stories about this. Eventually it'll just become just who they are, and they just don't do it anymore. But they got to keep jumping. It's when you stop trying, you'll never form it and give yourself a chance.
Yeah.
Most people, when they first attempt at forming a good habit or getting rid of a bad one, will fall off the wagon. And again, habits are an unthought thing. Sometimes people don't consciously think. So let's take biting nails, for instance. There was times when I'm like, I'm not going to bite my nails. It's a bad habit. I want them to look a little bit clean. And I'd be 6 weeks into doing it, and I'd be watching TV or something, and I'd catch myself biting my nail. And I didn't even know I'd put my nail near my mouth.
Yeah.
I genuinely did. And it was too late. I'd already done it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you see that with people all the time. So habits and unthought. So try to break a bad habit's really difficult. But then even try to form a new one. So, yeah. Most of the time when you try to form new habits, you're trying to break an old one.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think it's so, it is just not being too hard on yourself when that happens. Because a lot of the time when it is a habit, is a subconscious, like with the biting your nails. You don't even realise that you're doing that until you're like, oh, you don't click until it's happened. So I think it is important to not be too hard on yourself, because then you'll think, you kind of give up before you start. Oh, I'm never going to do this. I'm not even going to try. And I think it's just being like, okay, I might fail, but that's okay, because I'll just go again.
That just something you says there, I'm never going to do this. Be careful with the stories you tell yourself, because what you tell yourself you are, you'll believe and do, because your mind seeks evidence to prove whatever you say right. So if you constantly call yourself an idiot and constantly say you can't do stuff, your mind will make you be silly on purpose and not be intelligent and not figure things out, because it wants you to be right. So you go, see, I told you I couldn't do it. So I think you got to be very careful with how you speak to yourself when you're trying to form habits.
Yeah.
So it's, I couldn't do it this time, but I'm going to go again. So just change the word into it.
See, that's why I tell you I'm a genius every day.
Your mind seeks evidence, right?
There's a reason to it.
Yeah, okay. Just remember you're human sometimes, and everybody's human, and all the greats are human, and not everything. You can't be perfect all the time, and you fall off the wagon. I caught myself going to take bites out of chocolate bars when I says I wasn't eating sugar, but I'm like, I've caught myself spitting it. That far I've chewed it, and then remembered.
What am I doing? Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is good. And I'm like, it's a bit too good. Wait a minute. And then I realised that I'd picked up my children's bar automatically and took a bite and ran to the bin to spit it out, because I'm like, I shouldn't be doing it. I've done that loads.
Love it. Committed. Quite right.
Yeah. And if you swallow it, I just go, oh, well.
Yeah.
I'll own it.
We go again, yeah.
Just okay.
Yeah.
I had a hiccup. I'm human. So
we've talked quite general about habits. So I think it's maybe good to kind of now look at some more specifically within sales. What are some good habits to have when sales is your career, sales is the industry that you're in? What are some kind of good habits to start developing or breaking? Like we've said, both equally important, that kind of sets you up as much as possible for success with sales.
I think specific habits are, everybody's different again. I think you got to get in the habit of figuring out how to get yourself in the best possible frame every day. If we're talking specifically sales, it's the same thing I would tell anybody in sport. You've got to get in the habit of getting yourself mentally, before physically, you got to get yourself physically, mentally. You got to find a way of getting yourself mentally ready, and you got to form habits that get you mentally ready. You got to get in the habit of training like your life depended on it. Again, like sport, you got to train right as a sport. And I think you got to get in that. I would say another one specifically. Again, this isn't just sales. I don't think any of these are just sales, to be honest. But you got to get in the habit of really evaluating what went right and what went wrong, and what was a controllable and what wasn't a controllable. If it is a controllable, it goes back to the obsession and learning. You got to learn how to control it. If there is a way to control the outcome, if there's not a controllable, you just got to get in the habit of accepting it and just moving on. Like it's raining in Glasgow today. I've shorts and t-shirt on, expecting a bit more heat, and control, not control. I can't.
Yeah.
So, we move and just carry on with it. I think that would be it. But I don't think they're sales specific. I don't think any habits are. Nah, I don't think there's anything you could say is just for salespeople. When I'm coaching people, I always say that everything you learn with me is transferable. Like if you were to put all the same habits into someone who's at university, who primed themselves mentally every day, physically got it, trained really hard, a person would fly through exams. So I don't think there's sales specific. I would like to say they are, but they're not. I just think success is success, and the things required to be successful are the things required. I don't.
It's just how to be high performing in any sector.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, sales specific. Learn your words, your pitch, know your customer, know your product. But
what role do habits play then in preventing? We talk about sales slumps or someone's taking a dip or whatever. What kind of role do habits play in preventing those slumps or those dips that people might find themselves going through? And how can you rely on your habits to kind of minimize the effect of it?
Yeah, you said preventing there, and I was going to say there's no preventing.
Yeah.
You're going to have, I just talk sports and business, there's always ups and downs, right? You'll never see a graph of any business on the planet, any stock on the planet, any crypto, any sports athletes' results or teams ever that's just a straight line.
Yeah.
There'll never be a straight line. Like, there's always going to be ups and downs. I think good habits carry you through the bad times and make your bad times not as bad as it would be if you didn't have those good habits.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
100%.
Like that. So I think what habits do is carry you through the slumps and minimize. You says minimize. I think they minimize damage, but there's always going to be slumps. It doesn't matter what you're in. It doesn't matter what career path you're in. There's always going to be. There's always going to be times where things are really good and always times are really bad, but there has to be certain habits in place because my habits are there to make sure I'm the best version of myself. So if I don't have habits there that make me the best version of myself, then my bad days are going to be worse and my good days aren't going to be as good.
Yeah.
But I think my habits carry me through when I don't feel good and things aren't going well. I think they're more important then. When things are well and things are good, I'll maybe blame it and then maybe blame it on some other things. But when things go south, I'm really thankful for some of the habits I've got because it's made it not as bad. And I've realised that if I didn't have those good habits then, or those routines, which we'll talk about, then I would have been a much worse scenario. Is that what I'm maybe trying to say? Wouldn't have been as positive.
Yeah. And how can, when you talk of, so a lot of the stuff is, I think what I'm taking from this, a lot of it is quite mental as well. So what are kind of some habits you can develop for mental strength and to kind of mentally cope with, again, a career in sales or in business in general? What are some habits that you can do to help with that?
The habit they'll say two things I think is important. One, constantly challenge yourself. Remember we were talking about conscious brain and its capacity to hold information? I'm always challenging that. If my brain's not been, I don't know, mentally I think it's like a muscle. If there's no strain, it's not going to get stronger.
Yeah.
I'm not scared to take more stuff on. I like it actually. I like if my skill level's here, I'm always here. I'm always just chewed off a little bit more than I can chew.
Yeah.
Because if I chew off more than I can chew, what's harder will eventually become easy. And if I continue to do that, I'm going to continually get mental strength. I'm going to become a much stronger person. Like, I think it was my accountant I was talking to. And I'm like, I just like living on the edge. I like, if there's a line, I like pushing the line. How, like most people in sales or entrepreneurs or sports, like how far can I stretch myself?
Yeah.
Where's my limit? All right, there's my limit. Oh, that hurt. Now I know where my limitation is. How do I get past that limitation? I can only do, all right, and it's just constantly. But so I suppose it's been in a habit of constantly being in a state of pressure, a state of anxiousness, if that's it. But actually enjoying living in that space all the time and not actually enjoying not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if things are too easy, it's not that it's boring when it's easy, it's good, but you're not being stretched.
Yeah.
So get in the habit of being. There's a guy who just started running his own company that I'm coaching, and I says to him, like, if you want to be a good entrepreneur, you better get used to anxiety and stress and never being happy. Because if you can have a growth mindset, why do it? You better get in the habit of feeling those three things. Because if you don't feel them, you won't grow. So I think that's one habit. I think to counter that, on the back, get in a habit of finding time to yourself to deload and process all that stuff, because when you are pushing a muscle to capacity, it also needs rest time, because if you don't get rest time, it'll pop. So it's knowing your limit and knowing the time you can push yourself to the limit. So get to know yourself, but then find a deload time.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the gym every morning to deload a little bit, but not a lot. But that might be, I go on holiday every 12 weeks, because I know, and I think you said to me before I went my last holiday, please turn your phone off and actually do it, because I was at my limit. And I remember knowing I was at my limit. I think you came to talk to me one day, and I'm like, if this is new information, I'm out.
Yeah.
I was like,
just figure it out.
It's like a full car park. I'm like, my brain is at complete capacity. I can't handle anything else. And then when I went on holiday, it took me 7 days to process and do it. And then my brain was clear again. And then I'm like, all right, now I can take on more work. I'll come back. I'll get busier, find out where my limit is again. And then once I've pushed it enough, I'll take a break and do it. So again, it's like training in a gym. Get in the habit of trying to push yourself further, but also get in the habit of resting once you've pushed yourself further to recover, so you can go push even further again.
Yeah, I think time is such an important thing to kind of focus on there. And I think one thing is, people will say, oh, like 24 hours in a day isn't long enough. So what habits can you recommend, or what habits do you think are good ones to form to help with that time management? Not only to be kind of as productive as you can and get as much done as you can, but also to take that you time and to have that time to kind of decompress when you need it.
Don't like the term time management. You can't manage time. So you says there, the 24 hours in a day, 365 days a year, right? So we talk about Musk and Bezos and all these people. They have the same time. The only thing we all have equal, actually, in the planet is time.
Yep.
We have 7 days a week, 365 days. That's that. Time is equal everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Loads of things are unequal. Even if we grew up in the same street, we might have unequal opportunities.
Yep.
Depending on your family connections, school, all that stuff. But we all have the same time. So it's not learning how to manage time. You can't manage time. You can sit there, you can try your work. Time is just going to go. Whatever, you can't stop it, right? If you can, great. You can't get more of it. Everybody wants. There's plenty of times I fell asleep and go, I wish there was just more hours in the day, right? So I think instead of thinking about managing time, it's about thinking about getting the habit of figuring out how to make a minute count, and getting the habit of thinking about how you use your time productively. Let's go back to good and bad habits. A thing I do with my time is naturally you'll think I don't have time to do this. When I catch myself doing that, I replace, remember I was talking about stories you tell yourself? So I catch myself saying that. So when I say I don't have time to do X, Y, and Z, I rephrase the question, or reframe what I say to myself, and I go, wait a minute, let me find time to do it. And then I go through what I'm doing with the 24 hours in my day. I mean, I can't argue with sleep, right? We can get into a whole podcast about that. But what I start to look at is where I'm using 30 minutes of time in my day when I'm not getting anything back for it. I gave up football because I realised that I had 90 minutes in a week where I wasn't getting a return on investment, albeit sometimes I was getting a good emotional return and sometimes a bad, but it didn't, it was 50-50.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't a sure bet. Yeah.
90 minutes a week times however many weeks, and I'm like, all right, if I give that up, then I've got 90 minutes every weekend that I can use to do something a wee bit more productively with my time. I stopped drinking for that reason as well. Was just like, it was just the time it was causing me mentally and physically was just, I started to look at it like a waste of time that I had. I could spend that time sleeping, spending time with my kids. I just, and that's why I stopped. It wasn't because I don't enjoy drinking. I just looked at it from a time point of view, and I'm like, I could probably use that time a little bit more
effectively,
productively. I mean, the time's there. How many people sitting there, if you look at your screen time, how many people are doing 2 hours a day screen time?
Oh, it's terrifying.
I've no time to go to the gym, but my screen time was 2 hours a day and never learnt a thing, right? So you do have the time, you're just not, who doesn't have 30 minutes in a day. I used to say I didn't have time to go to the gym actually years ago. I think we've actually said this in this. And then I used to say all the time, I'm too busy. I was a new entrepreneur and people are like, do you go to the gym? And I'm like, I used to. I just don't have time anymore because I'm too busy. I got loads going on. And I tell myself that story so I could never find time. And then I see a picture and it's when Obama was in power, and it was Obama out jogging, and it says, if the richest man, if the most powerful man in the world can find an hour a day to train, so can you. And I never didn't train for that day.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, all right, I just need to find an hour. And then I realised that I slept till 8 o'clock in the morning. That's when I started getting up at 6. Because I'm like, there is time, I'm just spending in my bed. Do I really need 8 to 10 hours sleep a night? Let me figure out if I need that. And then quickly figured out that I could sleep in 6 hours and then have 2 hours where I could go do some training in the morning. So I did have the time there, I just wasn't looking at it properly in the first place.
Yeah.
I was wishing I had more time and try to manage time rather than looking at the time I had, accepting that it's an uncontrollable, and then go the controllable as what I actually do with that time.
Yeah.
Especially phones these days, we waste so much time.
Oh, it's like it, but it's so easy to do that. You go on your phone to do one thing, and 20 minutes later, you've been on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and you've done it all, and you went on to check the time or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just all quite again, it's a habit. It's all subconscious, and I do that all the time. I end up on TikTok and think, how did I get here? I don't remember coming here.
Yeah, it's so easy to get down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I think it's also, I done a topic on this when I lived in Australia for about an hour and a half, and I was talking to a bunch of people that manage folk. And the way I told them to look at it, I'm like, look at your time like it's money. So most people wouldn't throw £10 away. They wouldn't set it in fire. They wouldn't on purpose waste a tenner, right? And the less of what you've got, the more precious it is. But when you start to think about your time and money and start to think, let's just say a second is a penny and 10 minutes is £10 and an hour is £60, would you waste £60 every day if you only had a limited amount of it? The answer is no, you wouldn't. Would you just, even giving other people your time with no value, would you just randomly hand someone 10 quid? You wouldn't, but we randomly give our time away all the time because you don't value, so your perception of it, you don't value your time. There's actually a saying in a Marvel movie, for anybody who watched it, it's Tony Stark's dad, and it was, it's not, you don't watch Marvel.
No.
But he was talking something about family and regrets, and he says something to him that really sits true with this, and it says, no amount of money in the world ever bought a second of time.
Yeah.
You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. So once you start to think about your time like it was cash, would I waste 20 minutes? It's like burning £20. Well, the answer's no. So you start to, and again, my family and people around me would call this an obsession because I really try not to waste a minute. Every minute to me matters because, it's a minute. Same as I wouldn't throw a quid away.
But I think something that's also really important to kind of mention though is time is so important and so valuable, and so kind of managing your time is so important, and how you spend that.
Yep.
But I think also what is equally as important is the time where you don't do anything, and when you do take the time for yourself or to kind of relax or just take time with family or loved ones. So I think one, I guess, habit that I've seen from you is that you go really hard Monday to Friday, and your hours are filled up from the second you open your eyes until the second you close your eyes. But then Saturday and Sunday, your habit is phone's often in a drawer, or you're kind of uncontactable, and the habit is that is family time, because again, that is just kind of as important. So I think having that balance also needs to become a habit, and having the, I guess, personal time also, and the time of doing nothing is also just as important as the time that you are doing stuff and making sure you are kind of being productive.
Yep. Loads of people think of balance about time spent. They weigh up time spent at work. I spend 40 hours at work, but only spend 2 days at home. So there's no balance. I want a balanced life, which for most people would mean 3.5 days work and 3.5 days of no work. Yeah. Because they're basically based in time. I think again, looking at it as quality of time and what you actually do with that time. It's funny actually. Some people in my wife's life used to wonder why my wife put up with the long hours that I do. And I used to always argue that even though their men or their husbands came home at night, they would come home and do other stuff. they'd come home, but they'd lie on the couch and do nothing, and they'd go to the pub or they'd go watch the football, and then at the weekend they would golf with their mates and do other stuff. Whereas when I go home at the weekend, I don't do any of that stuff. The sun was out on Saturday, went to watch my 14-year-old daughter play athletics, and the first comment that my daughter's friend's mum made to me was, "Why aren't you out playing golf like every other man in Glasgow today?" And my wife looked at her and says, "James doesn't play golf, he spends all his weekends with us."
Oh.
But that, to me, again, that's use of time, right?
Yeah.
I can't say I've no time to hang with my kids but be in the golf course.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm too busy. I had to make a choice of, would I like to be in the golf course on a Saturday when it was sunny? Of course, it would have been a great time. But that's using my time productively to make sure. It's quite funny when she says that. Like, it's very normal for, and I actually felt like my wife and go, I've told you this all my years, that this is, me being away during the week, long hours, I compensate for that during the week. So, but I think it goes back to, and let's talk about habits. And like, if something's important to you, it's about, come back to the beginning of being obsessed by being good at it. I'm obsessed by being a good dad and a good husband, and I know I'm going to be judged from my children and people around me and how good a dad or husband I am. So I think if you, and I guarantee you, I bet any money, Bezos, Musk, all these people that are super highly successful, I'm not saying they have the same values as me or they do it the exact same way as me. Guarantee you they're great parents.
Yeah.
Guarantee you that when they're with their kids and what they're doing stuff, they're just as obsessed.
Yeah.
Because it's a habit.
Well, I'm sure it's Bezos that I've seen, and there's a thing that's saying for Bezos breakfast is non-negotiable. So before he leaves the house, they have to have family as a breakfast, and they're never allowed to schedule any calls or any meetings or anything early enough, because he said that's a non-negotiable. That's the time when we all talk about our day and what we've all got going on and what's going to happen during the day. And I might get called away to meetings in the evenings, or they might be doing homework and stuff when they get home. So if we start our day together, for him, he was like, that's a non-negotiable. So funny that you say that, because I've read something justifying that.
I did not know that. Was just a guess, but I was willing to bet, because going back to these people being obsessed by being the best, they're obsessed by being the best at every role they play in their lives. Doesn't mean you're going to be the best dad or the best mum or the best husband or the best boyfriend or the best, but it means you're obsessed by trying.
Yeah.
So when you do something, you really high. And again, it's not time spent. I guarantee you, maybe that breakfast is 30 minutes, but the quality of those 30 minutes will probably outweigh the quality of 5 breakfasts in someone else's house who's there but on their phone. You're there but you're not there. You're not really engaged. I don't turn my phone on at the weekend when I'm with my kids. I don't take my phone to dinner. I warned my wife before we go, I'm like, my phone won't be. We went to the zoo on Sunday. I don't take it, because again, I could be there for 8 hours, but if I'm on my phone, I'm not actually there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So if you're going to do something, do it 100%. Yeah. It says there again, everything you do in your life 100%. Like everything, you wear different hats. The health, you, the son, the daughter, but if you're going to do something in your life, you need to get in the habit of giving it everything. And if it's in your nature and you're quite entrepreneurial, you'll already been obsessed by doing things right anyway. You can't help yourself, right? If you're going to hang about with your kids, hang about with your kids. If you're going to hang about with your partner, hang about with your partner. Like if my wife wants me to hang about with her, I turn the TV off, because I just... But I think the two fit. If I'm at work, I'm at work.
Yeah.
If I'm at home, I'm at home. And if I'm at home and I want to do some work, I need to go to work. And if I'm working and I want to do something personal, I need to be home. But it's only then can you be completely engaged with it.
Yeah. And I think that's quite a good, I guess, segue to what we were going to talk about next, which is routines. Because I think you can't talk about habits without talking about routines. I think routines is all these little habits also kind of stacked together and that make up a routine. But something that you just said there, when you're at work, you're at work. When you're home, you're at home. I remember you saying before, when I think we were just coming out of lockdown or whatever it may be, and you're contemplating putting a gym at home and stuff, because you thought maybe I'll get some time back, and if I just convert the garage into a gym.
I still think about that quite frequently.
But I remember your argument at the time was saying, but that's just not my routine. My routine is getting out the house and being in the gym, and then I can give 100% to the gym. And that was your routine, and that was really important to you, that kind of structure. So what would you define a routine as, and why is a routine important?
I think a routine is just structure of your life Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. You're asking for my definition. It's just a structure that best serves you to be routine. Like everybody's got routines, whether they like it or whether they don't. There's wee routines when you wake up in the morning to when you go get coffee and go to the bathroom, and depending on the size of your house, what bathroom you go to, and I think there's loads of it. So I think routine as structure. I think for me, routine is, when you were talking there about the gym and all that, I think separation. I think routine helps you separate the different parts of your life. Because if I was training at home and my kids were talking to me, I've got the choice between training well and getting at everything, and having to be a bad dad, or being a good dad but screwing up the training part. That's why the it'll give me back time, but that won't be a good use of time, because that time will get split all the time, and it'll either affect my health or it'll affect my relationship with my kids. And I don't want to say kids, I always think of my 3-year-old running in the room when I'm trying to train, and I'll be like stretching. If I do stretching in the house and she'll jump on me, and I'm like, you're gonna snap. Like, I'll be like doing a move that if she sends me the wrong way, something will thinking of, she's 3, she doesn't know. So I think my definition of routines would be structure, and structure to your day, and have certain things. Routines are good, but I'm always open to change them, because life isn't always going to go into. I'm sure Bezos is, talking about his breakfast, but I'm sure there's times where that routine has to get shifted a little bit and get changed. I didn't set my Alexa last night. I've done this new thing where we're putting the phones at the room with the 4G and try to sleep. Me and my freaky wee health life made a difference, actually. More to my wife than I, which is hysterical.
Yeah. What, getting to sleep quicker or just sleeping better?
Nah, we took all the devices out the room at night, and every night we've done it, she hasn't woken up during the night once, and she says she always woke up during the night. I sleep like a baby anyway. It could be 15 devices in the room. When I'm sleeping.
All on you.
I'm just 6 hours of good deep sleep. So what was I saying? Yeah, and I forgot to set Alexa this morning and last night. And albeit I woke up, I've got my routines. I have a routine of what time I have to be at the door at, to be in the gym at, to be doing my training and cool down and be in the motorway just to miss the traffic, but in time just to get somewhere at a certain time. And so 36 minutes might not seem like a lion, or might not seem like you slept in, but because going back to time, I've got my whole day planned to the minute.
Yeah.
So when I've just lost 36 minutes, I can either not stick to my routines or just readjust them. So I had to readjust my routines this morning. So I caught up with some time by taking a 30-minute training session and put it in a 25 minutes and steal 5 minutes back, but do the last 5 minutes twice as hard. So I've done the same workout in a shorter space of time.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
less rest time.
I'm going on a wee rant here, but I usually go for a sauna. I didn't, so there's negotiables. So I have routines, but I travel. If I'm traveling, I'm going to be in Birmingham next week for a couple of days. I won't be able to have the same routines there. So I have my routines, which is structure, which suits my life best and serves me best. But I think they're important, but I think that you have to be open to change. You said something interesting about habits and routines in a way here.
Yeah, I was reading an article on yesterday, in fact. It's like a newsletter I'm subscribed to that sends through these different articles every single day. And one of the ones that came up yesterday was, why do people never stick to habits? So I thought, very apt, because we were kind of sorting questions for today. And it was basically saying, Google did this research years and years ago, and they had 3 different groups. And one group was, so what they were actually researching was about the effects of exercise and how it affects people's performance at work and all that sort of stuff. But one group, they just suggested, we recommend you exercise, it'll be good for you, and that was it. Another group, they said you have to exercise for an hour every single day at 6 o'clock, and this is the exercise you do. And they gave them an hour-long program of all the steps that they had to take and all the different kind of workouts that they had to do. And then there was another group, the third group, which is you have to exercise every single day, but you can do it when you want and what you want. And there was some stipulation, so it had, like, if you're going for a walk, it had to be a 30-minute continuous walk or whatever. Like, it had to get your heart rate up by a certain percentage or whatever it was. So they did this study, and then they went back to the people about 6 months later or whatever it was, and the people that they recommended did exercise, there was not really any change to that. The people who they said you must exercise every single day at this time and this is what you must do, not many of them were still doing it. It hadn't become a habit for any of them. But the people that they said, as long as you do it every day and do something every day, the majority of them, and quite a vast majority of them, were still doing that 6 months later. And this article went on to say people fail to stick to habits because they try to create like a rigid routine instead of making it just a practice. And they kept saying a routine, you know, if you say to someone you have to work out at 6 p.m. every single day, and it gets to, you know, you're being held up at work or you're in a meeting or whatever it would be, and it gets to 10 past 6, you're like, well, I've missed that. Like that's kind of gone out the window. Or I'm going out for dinner tonight. So in the morning, you already know that you're going to fail that day and you're not going to kind of meet that. So it's all these breaks in the habits where when it becomes a practice, they were saying that, you know, if you know you've got a busy afternoon, you can just do it in the morning to kind of get it out the way. Or if you've got a busy morning, you can kind of do it later at night and stuff. And it was just saying that, you know, if you make a routine, sometimes you put too many constraints on yourself and you make it a bit too rigid, as opposed to giving yourself a bit more freedom and just saying, okay, as long as you do it, that's okay. But I was saying to you in the car on the way here that I was really interested to get your take on that, because I do think some routines probably do need to be quite rigid and some routines probably do need to be quite structured. And then I think there are some things that can be a lot more kind of free-flowing. But what are your thoughts on that? Because you are a very routined human being with everything that you do. From, you know, I can draw a map of when you come in the office every day, what room you go in first and then what room you go in second and third. And you're a man who loves a routine.
I don't even know. I didn't even know I had a pattern when I came into the office.
So, and I know your mornings are very structured from the first thing you do, you go get your coffee, probably what mug you use. It's all probably quite structured and there's a big routine to it. So what do you think about that study? And do you think that it can apply to some and not others? Or do you think it is important to have those routines?
I just think I don't think you have to be so stuck in time frame. There's preferred time frames. There's a preferred order and a preferred routine. But I think you have to be open to change all the time. I think it's like a good strategy.
Yeah.
Or a good strategist. Strategist, what, maybe.
Linguist.
I'm really into plan A, but I have to be open to it changing, right, depending. So I've learned to be open. I used to be very rigid, and if I didn't get it done at a certain time, I wouldn't. I'd malfunction, actually, and my whole day would be ruined. And I suppose loads of people do that, where they miss something and they go, oh, it's got to be one of those days. Yeah. And so all of a sudden the day's ruined because something couldn't happen at a certain time. I think you have to quickly readjust. And like you're saying, it's not important what time you go to let's just say the gym. It's not important or what time you drink your coffee at. Yeah, I'd like to drink my coffee at a certain time when I get up and do it, but if that's not possible, I have to be open to the fact that as long as I drink the coffee, it's better than not, or as long as I go to the gym, it's better than not, or if I get the 30-minute workout, it's better than no workout. Might not get the hour and a half I wanted, but, you know, if I get the 30-minute. So I think you have to be, I think rigid's good, routine's good, I think structure's really good. Again, we're human. I just says in the office, I didn't even realise I had the pattern, just because that's just what I do. And I get up in the morning and could probably watch a pattern. I know what the pattern is, it has no purpose, it's just the routine, and everybody has them. But, you know, I could do it backwards as well if I had to. Yeah. So I think it's having routines that best serve you and having times which is good, but be open to change because life is going to happen.
Yeah. I also think it largely comes down to, I guess, a personality type. I like structure and I like knowing, like, when I wake up, this is what I do, this is everything I do in the morning is exactly this, and I do everything in the same order because I really like structure and I really thrive off of structure. And then there's some people who aren't and are really spontaneous and stuff like that. So I think it's what suits you, but also I think another aspect of that is, I think some things, depending on the importance and the value that you let it hold in your life, is how structured and rigid you are with that. So like I would say with you, and again, obviously feel free to disagree, but I think you're working out and you're kind of going to the gym, you are quite rigid with that and structured with that. It needs to be in the morning, or in a very ideal world, it will always be in the morning, because that's how you set your day up and that's how you kind of start process your day and plan your day and things like that. And whereas there is other little routines that it doesn't matter when you do it in the day as long as it gets done. So I think that article was interesting, and I think it's good because it kind of makes you think about, okay, where can I get a bit more flexibility? But also I think it also helps you realize where your priorities are or what is the most important things to you, because there is some things, if you think about changing, you'd be like, no, I hate that idea. Like you going to the gym probably, but then there is some things you're like, I don't mind when I do that as long as I get it done. So I think it's a good prioritizing tool to look at it like that.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's good. There's some stuff where it's a day-to-day thing where I know I need to get it done, but each day will be different when I get it done. As long as it's done before I go to sleep, then it's done before I go to sleep. It gets done. Then there's other stuff. It's actually, talk about the gym. It's the only reason I'm rigid with that as at the beginning of my day is because I know it helps me have a better day. I won't have a bad day if I don't. I just know it won't be as good as.
Yeah.
So that's all. And there's loads of psychology behind that, and you know, biology as well, and what happens in the morning when you go to the gym. So I'm quite rigid with that because I know it's a big catalyst to the rest of the day. And different people have coffees or meditation. You know, I've got a friend that does an ice bath every morning, and if he doesn't do an ice bath, he just doesn't function. And the idea of doing an ice bath every morning sounds like torture to me. You know, that's just, but yeah. So when things are rigid, it's because I know they're super beneficial to get done at that time.
Yeah.
It's funny actually, when I was younger, I used to like training at night, and I didn't enjoy doing it in the morning because it was a stress relief for me. So now I don't feel like I'm stressed at night. I don't need that anymore. But I need to get ready for my day so that I can be in top form. So admit that actually it used to be more rigid with training at night and not the morning because it had a different effect. And it's just that I suppose at that time I didn't like my job or my life that much. And so every night I needed a vent. And some people go home and vent in a bottle or whatever. But I like training at night. I actually love training at night because I needed a stress relief after doing the job. I didn't like the whole day and getting frustrated at the people that were managing me, and so I needed that. I don't have that now, so the gym didn't serve me at night anymore because I don't need that. So you can also change your routines depending on what it's for.
Yeah. And I think it's important to assess, because so many things in life can become very routined, and I think it is important to assess what in your life is routined. I remember saying to you, it was probably last year now, and you looked at me and told me that I was a crazy person because I'm so routined and so structured. I don't like walking a different way to the office. I have to walk the same way to the office. And we were somewhere around about my flat and we were walking back, and I went, no, we go this way. And he said, no, it doesn't matter. I said, no, we have to go this way.
Down the lane, right? It's down the lane on English Street.
But because that's part of my routine. So, but ever since then, because I remember thinking like, why did that really bother me that I couldn't go a different road, because there was no time difference really. So I make an effort now to go different ways to not have that become a routine. Because I think routines are great, and again, practices like this article we're saying are great, but also we can probably be a bit too routine sometimes, or a bit too structured sometimes, or a bit too planned sometimes. So I think it is good to look and think, why do I do this? Is it because it's just part of my routine and I do it in a subconscious level, or is it because there's actually a purpose within that?
I think it goes back to your life being easier because you don't have to think.
Yeah.
It probably becomes a little bit of a habit. It's actually funny, I was thinking about that this morning too. The times, so we'll talk about routines again, and routines also become quite boring. So I'm kind of bored with driving the same road every morning.
Yeah.
I actually thought this morning, maybe a couple of days I'll get the train just because, you know, it's the same.
God, he's going crazy.
same every day, do you know what I mean? I'm like, it's just like routines can also be really boring. Same traffic, same road, same street corners, same traffic lights, same people in the train. And I think now and again it's good to maybe switch your routines up as well, just to make you feel like everything's a wee bit fresh again.
Yeah.
So it is quite dangerous to the point where you could become quite bored and just going through motions. Like, I can drive to work with it and sometimes get to work with it even realising how I got
How
there.
did I get here?
But I know how I got there because it's the same way
Yeah.
I get there all the time, the same road, it's all the same stuff. So routines are really good to have to give you structure in your life. But you're right, the question is, why are you doing it? I think sometimes we stick to routines just because it's just easy to do that. But it's also adventurous to change them now and again.
Yeah.
I thought about changing my gym to the afternoon a lot to try and spice things up, but I just know that not doing something in the morning would mess me up.
Yeah, if I can request that you keep going in the morning, that'd be good.
I actually thought about replacing it with an ice bath because I don't like the idea of doing one every morning. I do something, but I need something. But again, it's just because I'm bored.
Yeah.
I'm just bored. It's the same cars in the morning. It's the same. The people are lovely. It's not even the people, actually. It's just the same gym at the same time and the same road, the same shop to buy water, the same people driving down my street in the morning. And I'm just like, my routines are good and serve me well, but they're a wee bit boring. So sometimes it's all right to change your routines just to spice things up a wee bit.
Yeah, and I think it also massively just avoids like a rut. Like, why are you doing these things? And why, like, you do kind of get in a rut with things. And a lot of the time, I think, again, going back to kind of the subconscious thing, how many times do you do things because that was the routine or that was the structure that you had when you were growing up? In the morning, if that's what you saw your parents do, why is that what you do?
Yeah.
Because again, it's kind of learned stuff, and sometimes we do things without thinking, what is the purpose of this, or what is the reason of doing this?
What value does it add to my... Actually, no, I don't know if you remember last week when we came at the office and we went to walk down the lane and I says, I want to walk down Buchanan Street because I'm sick of walking down that. It's just habit that I walked down the lane. I think I says this beginning, I'm at a part of my life I'm a little bit bored.
Yeah.
I'm very routine driven. I've got the habits are fine. I need the habits. They're great. But the routines I have, I've been doing the same routine for so long that I'm actually get bored because it's not challenging my brain a little bit. So even changing it sometimes just makes you a wee bit happier. Routines are good, but can also be dangerous because the boredom will kick in.
Yeah.
All the time.
So I think the main parts of days where people probably have routines is morning routine and a night routine. So what do they look like for you? And again, what are the kind of non-negotiables? And also, why do you do what you do in the morning and in the evening? We'll start with morning.
You want me to go through my morning?
Yes, that was the question.
Not like from I wake up. Which part from I open my eyes?
Just what would you classify as your morning routine? So I don't need like this, like I take the duvet off and get out of bed and walk 5 steps to the door. I don't need that. But just what would you classify as things that make up your morning routine, and why do you do them?
Get up, coffee.
Yep.
Sit myself for 10 minutes, drinking the coffee. Don't check phone. But no, I'll tell you why, as we go along, I'll tell you why. Coffee, I mean, it speaks for itself, right? I don't have time to wake up naturally. So my morning's busy, so I don't have the time to wait. It would be nice. They say that you should drink coffee an hour and a half after your day and your body will wake up naturally. I don't have an hour and a half to wait for my body.
I don't think many people do that.
I need to get up.
Yeah.
Even though I'm really into my health, I'm like, nah, I need to be awake relatively quickly and on the ball relatively quickly, right? Because I train. I get up with coffee, mentally sit there and kind of go through my day. Kind of mentally go through what my day looks like, what my gym session looks like, what phone calls look like, what the morning looks like, what the afternoon looks like, and kind of mentally get myself all right before I start and doing that. Then I get myself at the house. If we're being specific, I'll get up at 6. I'll be finished coffee by about 12 minutes past 6.
You got the seconds there for me?
I've got it. I can tell you how long.
54 seconds.
I can tell you how long it takes to fill the cup up from my water pouring it. I actually got messed up with that because we bought a water filter for the house that you press the button and it does the hot water.
And it takes longer or shorter.
And it's longer than the kettle, so I'm still trying to figure out the time to fill the cup up. So
how do you manage? You're such a brave person for getting out the house every day.
Hard life, right? But coffee, I go upstairs, get my stuff together. I've got to be at the door at 6:45. I'm going to be leaving the house at 7:15. If you must know, it takes me 11 minutes to drive to the gym.
Could you be a bit more specific? That's quite vague.
I need to start my gym session at 7.
Right.
I get 2 hours in the gym. I get 2 hours full in the gym so I need to leave the gym at 9 o'clock when I just miss the traffic to get to the. Anyway, sorry, but we have everything. Come back to holding a minute. Precious. I know how long it takes to walk for the local pub from my front door, and how long it takes to get to the train station in Sainsbury's. I know to the minute how long it physically takes.
Right.
So yeah, for me, coffee, process my day, have discipline not to go on my phone to any social media platforms, emails, text messages. I'm quite work orientated, so it's so tempting for me. And again, that was another thing I was thinking about, was changing my routines. Would I be more productive in the morning working than I am in the afternoon, and swapping those two a bit. I got to get to the gym for 7. I do the gym. I generally do the gym for about an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half. That's not specifically timed. That would depend on the workout, the intensity.
Yeah, what you're doing that day.
Yeah, sometimes it takes me longer to do the same workout because maybe I'm not as on it as I was the day before maybe. But I have to be, and then I have a sauna every day after the gym. After that, I do phone calls. How far into my morning am I gone here?
Well, just what would you classify as your? So it's probably up until you get to the office, I would say, because that's when your work routine would maybe start.
Coffee, thought process running through my day, making sure I'm organised for my day physically and mentally. I've done the physical stuff the night before, mental stuff and processing the next morning, getting to the door, getting to the gym, doing a workout that I'm happy with. Happy with means intense. I'll go through why I do that in a minute. And doing a sauna is like my meditation after it. When I'm in the sauna, I rerun through the rest of my day. I kind of rehash back through it because I'm half asleep when I'm doing it the first time. And I think about all my decisions when I'm there. I make all my, believe it or not, I hate getting in the sauna as much as I love it sociably. Sometimes I'm in there and I want quiet because I need to process stuff and make all my wee decisions there. When I leave the gym, I have to be ready for work. But for me, getting that in the morning is no different like someone going to play a sport. That for me is my warm-up. So all that stuff I wake up to there is me priming myself and getting myself ready to go to work. And work for me starts when I get in the car to drive to the office because I start doing all my calls there. You know, I manage and coach people all around the UK, and you know, I don't see everybody when I get to the office, so I do a lot of my phone calls. I do as many of my phone calls as I can. I have like an 11-12 minute drive from, depending on traffic, from the office to the car park. And then I do all my calls, and I try and leave myself space between the car park and then to the office just to get myself in the office mode. So I've wee gaps between things just to kind of come off one thing and get my head into another.
I think that's the thing, one thing to just say, because I know you'll go into what you're saying about doing exercise and stuff that you're happy with. I know you're going to that in a second, but I think one thing that's good to point out here is you are very disciplined with that. So when you're doing your workout or when you're in the sauna and stuff, that's when you're kind of going over your day and things like that. Yep. And you are very disciplined about that. I think everybody in your life knows only contact you before 9 o'clock if it is like, I need this now, because you are very good at being like, no, this is me kind of priming myself or getting in the zone for the day. So you will quite frequently, if people do try to contact you before 9, not get back to them or not kind of respond until after, but it's because you have to do that to set your day up right. And I think that is really important just to mention there, that discipline that does go into it, because also you start to train other people. Like, I know never to try call you before 9 unless I really, really need something. But equally, I know if you're calling me before 9, it's because it's something really, really important as well. True. So I think it is good, again, the discipline to stick to that routine and the discipline to stick to, I guess, knowing why you're doing that, I think is just good to mention there.
Yeah, because it's tempting to answer calls and do stuff. Actually, if my wife ever calls me that time, I think something's wrong. Yeah. I don't get upset at her for calling me at that time, but I'll answer the phone and say what's wrong. Yeah. Because I'm like, that's not, why would you call me when I'm mid-session? Do you know what I mean? Because I think that just comes, that's in our conversation about focus and discipline and how getting distracted screws things up. But going back to why I do things, I think the coffee and the 10 minutes to myself, watch if there's ever a dog up or a kid up, I get messed with. And the reason my wife thinks, why does that 10 minutes matter? I think mentally when you wake up, your brain's foggy. Yeah. And I think mentally, like a sport, like anything else, I think if you want to play your best and you've got a winning mentality and you're going out to win the day and not just going up and go through motions, I think mental preparation is more important than physical. Mental preparation for what you're just about to endure is more important than the physical preparation. I think if your head's accepted what's going to come and what's going to happen, it just does what it has to do after that. So the first 10 minutes for me is important. I mean, the next 30 minutes is me getting ready to get out the door. If I could have someone else do that, I would. We've spoke about that many times, but that's just stuff I have to. There's no purpose apart from, I need a suit and shirt and need all that stuff and need food for that day. But the gym for me actually is to get myself ready for the day. I need huge energy, especially the first 3 hours of my day. 4 hours of my day is probably when I use about 80% of my energy is used in the first 4 hours of working.
Yeah.
That's it. Sometimes I'm dead after that stuff, but that's when I need to be at my best. Everybody will have a time in the day where they need to be at their best. For some people, it'll be between like 3 and 5 o'clock. For me, between 9 o'clock and 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I have to be at my best. That's when I'm in show. That's when I'm in the office. That's when I have the people who require me to be at my best are kicking about. So I have to be the best version. So it's super important that I have high energy. Not enthusiasm, not excitement. It can be that, but high energy, on the ball, sharp as a tack. Now I can not go to the gym and try and do those things, but just understanding the biology and the psychology I got at the gym. Number one, I always thought that got to the gym and doing a heavy session before I started my day was exceptionally good for me, because I thought if I can punish myself in the morning more than the day can punish me, then the day's never going to bother me.
Yeah.
So I think my stress levels are a lot lower because I've put myself through more pain than probably anybody is. So I'm quite a relaxed person during the day at work. You'll know that.
Yeah.
I don't lose my shit a lot. I don't get upset. I don't get caught up. I'm not on an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
That's because I've went and put myself through hell in the morning. It's actually, again, this is science, that when you put yourself through high levels of stress, like in a sauna or training, like your capacity for stress goes up. So I can deal with more stressful. The harder I push myself in the gym, the more primed for stress I am, because if I stress myself here in the gym and you come into it with something that stresses me, that's nothing, because I've done that. So the gym for that for me is to make sure that I can handle high stress levels. The second reason I go to the gym, I'm not long discovered this, but it always gave me more energy. I always felt better. I don't know why I felt better. I couldn't understand it, but I couldn't understand why you would get up 2 hours earlier, go put yourself through hell mentally and physically, because it's both. It's not just one or the other. But have more energy during the day and need less sleep. It just made no sense until I watched another podcast not that long ago, and apparently, which made sense to me, if you get up in the morning and you have purpose and you put maximum effort into that purpose and you do it with a positive mindset, as in I'm doing this because I enjoy it and it's good for me, your body takes cholesterol and transforms it into testosterone and dopamine. And when I watched that, I'm like, that makes loads of sense. Because as a human being, your body's still 2,000 years ago. So you're supposed to get up and move and put things in. But if you do it with a bad attitude, your body turns the cholesterol into cortisol, I think.
Yeah.
And which is the stress. And you get a wee bit stressed out with your day. So it's the three components together. Purpose, which is a goal, which they say can even be a work goal when you get up as well. Effort and doing it with a good attitude equals more energy. I'd love to be good academically so that I could go sit and learn about it, because the body's fascinating and the mind's. Who'd have thought that you work harder at something but you get more energy and not less? And people have always found that.
And that there's an equation for it, like a scientific equation to prove that.
And that's, now that I understand that, I
Yeah.
have to do it even more than so. Which is why when I say if I start to train in the afternoon, I need something to replace it, because this is as long as there's a purpose. So let's say friend in ice bath. His purpose is to get in the ice bath and he's got to put effort in for 4 minutes, but he's positive about it. Therefore, it'll give him the same energy kick as I get from the gym. So it doesn't have to be the gym for people. It could be completing a task in the morning. It could be up and doing, my daughter goes up and does homework in the morning sometimes and does studying. And you got up and she's sitting doing it, but she'll be excited after it because she got up, she had purpose, she gave it effort, and she done it because she wanted to do it. Therefore, it gives her energy and makes her feel really good about doing it. So I just know that getting up and doing that stuff in the morning makes me feel the best I could possibly feel in the morning, and my body is feeding me the best energy it can feed me, which gives me a better chance of doing my day really well. Do you know what I mean? Then go to night routines. I have, my morning routines are to set me up, and my night routines are to bring me down. It's no different. Let's just go back to training. You warm up, you get ready, you prime yourself, you play your game, and then you have to warm down again to take care of yourself. So my night routines, I mean, I always evaluate my day. I always have a look back, and people call it reflection, breakdown, evaluation. You can call it many things. But I always digest my day. And in the morning when I run through what's going to happen, at night I run through what's already happened. And I ask myself if I'd done everything that I wanted to do, and if I'd done it the way I wanted to do it, what went good, what went bad, and start to really think about, you know, what I could do tomorrow to improve on something I've done good or fix something that went wrong, right? I think a big habit for me that I've realised, and I only notice this in my sleep, I track my sleep. And the nights I don't do this, I don't sleep as well. And we all know that if you sleep well, you have more energy, and if you don't sleep well, you have less. And it doesn't, again, it's not hours, it's quality of sleep. It's quality of sleep. And so one of the big things that I've realised at night is I've not always had a night routine, but I've realised that my night routine was equally as important as my morning routine when I started tracking this. So my routine at night is I've a cut-off point where I stop working, which is 10:30 for me. Like, I have to stop working. And then I have what I call a dumbing down hour. And dumbing down hour means that I can't do anything that challenges me. So in the morning when I'm talking about challenging the brain and pushing it, at night I have to do the warm down and kind of deload my brain, because if my brain's still really busy when I go to sleep, it will stay busy, because how you fall asleep is how you sleep. If you fall asleep stressed and anxious, you'll sleep stressed and anxious. If you fall asleep busy in your head, you'll sleep busy in your head, and your brain doesn't, the whole idea of sleeping is so we get some rest. And again, this is just through studying about how to be a better version of myself, I've started to realise that the night time's important. And there's times where my sleep's not as good, and I've related it back to not doing this hour. There was a week I was going to my bed earlier and not doing this hour, and I had worse sleep even though I slept an hour more every night. And it's because I wasn't deloading my brain at night or dumbing it down. Dumbing it down for me, or for anybody, is just, I used to think it was a couple of beers. It was a couple of beers at one point. It could be glasses of wine at one point. But for me, it's just turning the brain off. For me, it's I put my phone away. My phone goes away. There's no social media. There's nothing that makes me think. I'll put on I call it dumb TV. So I'll put on some TV show, hence we're talking about that show Billions. That's when I start watching TV shows, and I do watch a lot of TV shows, and people are like, where do you find the time? It's actually part of my routines. Obviously I like watching TV shows and movies, but I actually do it because it dumbs my brain down. It's actually a term I use quite a lot. If I find my brain's too busy, I'll say to my wife, I'm going to go watch some TV for an hour and a half or play some football. Even in my 40s, I'll still play football. I don't play football because I enjoy football. I play football because it dumbs my brain down. Stops my brain having to overthink too much. So I think it's important. I do things like make sure I take supplementation at night to make sure I'm going to sleep and recover a bit better. I make sure I'm hydrated before I go to bed. I stretch before I go to my bed. You probably don't have to do that unless you're in your 40s or do a lot of training. But I find, like, if I stretch, I wake up not as tight. If I don't, I wake up I'm like tight in the morning. So, but I think if I was to pick the most important one, is that dumbing down hour. I've found to be the most, like, no matter what you do in your day, if you've got kids you're taking care of all day, if you've got, you know, a high pressure job, I think there has to be an hour at the end of the night where you've kind of digested your day, and then you just switch off. And I've just found that I only sleep 6 hours a night, but my sleep stats are better than a lot of people I know who sleep 8 hours. And I generally put it down to that routine. There's a guy online I watch, Ed Milet. Most people don't know who he is. And he's like, if you control the first and last 30 minutes of your day, the rest falls into place. And that, when he says that, really stuck with me.
Resonated.
Yeah, it did. I think setting yourself up and then warming back down, I guess it's no different for training. You have to do both.
So I think a good place to end, again, I'm conscious of time, but I think a good place to end is routines aren't going to be a one size fits all. Like, it's taken you a long time, 40 odd years, or even just your adult life, however long, to find that routine. 5 years old. I need to dumb it down now.
I need a routine, mum. With coffee.
Let me tell you the scientific equation why. But it's taken you a long time to get there, and even your routine now is different to what it was a year ago, and it's not one size fits all. Like you said, your daughter might like to do some studying in the morning, or your friend that does ice baths. So I've heard you tell people, just play the Xbox if that's what you want to do in the morning, or go have coffee with a friend. How do you find how do you start finding your routines and what works for you, and how do you kind of, I guess, know where to start and if it's working and if it's not working?
Find out what makes you happy. I just think what you enjoy. Some people go to the gym every morning and just sound like the most nightmarish thing in the whole entire planet. But maybe you enjoy kicking a ball about. Maybe you enjoy walks. Maybe you enjoy hills. Maybe you enjoy getting up and having breakfast with your girlfriend or boyfriend. So I think it's happiness takes effort, as they say, right? So I think routines for me are just things that make me go back to a better version of yourself. So I think you just got to figure out in the morning what makes you feel the best version of yourself, and give yourself time as well. Some people go up at 7:30 and leave the house at 8 to be somewhere at 9, but they don't give themselves time to be in the right frame of mind. And you're 2 or 3 hours before you wake up, and then as you're trying to wake up, you're busy doing other stuff, so you're never really happy. You just kind of get caught up in I call it the hamster wheel. Some people call it the rat race. So I used to have to give myself, I still do it. Even when I was 23, I knew I needed 2 hours before I got to whatever office I was working in, whatever job I was doing. If I wanted to be in a good frame of mind, especially my sales career, I knew that I needed 2 hours from wake up to walk in the door, because I needed that time to get myself in the right space. And I didn't go to the gym in the morning. It was key that I had breakfast in those mornings, and I sat down and wrote goals and that. And so at different points of your life, your routines will change, because you'll change and your life's commitments will change. Also, what makes you feel good will change as well. So, I think that you'll evolve, so your routines will evolve. But trial and error. Just figure out what works and what doesn't. In the morning, it's figuring out what makes me the best version of myself before I go to whatever I'm going to go do, be a parent or whatever, right? Even if I was just being a house husband all day and taking care of my kids, I'd still come and do those 2 hours. But I would still go to the gym, because I know I'd be a better dad in the morning, because I do. Even at the weekends, I go up and do it, because I know that the kids will get up. It's nice to stay home and talk to them, but I know I'll be a better version of myself if I go do that stuff. So figure out what gets you in the zone for being the best version of yourself before you go for your day, because everybody's day is going to be stressful, and some higher than others, but everybody's going to endure some form of stress, right? And everybody wants to feel good. That's, I'm sure nobody wakes up wanting to feel bad. And then at night, I think it's key to do a deload for your day, because the other thing is, if you don't deload a day, you tend to carry the day on to the next day, and you've seen that with people all the time, still whinging or feeling bad about something that happened the day before. It's because they never get rid of the baggage at night. So really kind of get rid of that baggage. Some people journal. I know people that write their day down and journal just before they go to sleep, because they kind of write it out like a diary and write it down. It's kind of like them dumping got a day dump and dumping all the information out. So you go to sleep and you wake up and you're fresh, and you've not took Monday's problems into Tuesday. Yeah. Especially if you're in business, that's key. You have to wrap up the business before, because you can't, if you have a bad day, the worst thing you can do is take that in the next day with you. Yeah. So just try and see what works. Yeah, figure it out. I mean, my routines might be the worst nightmare. My wife looks at the things I do and it's her worst nightmare. But but she doesn't need caffeine in the morning. She's things she likes doing. But I don't like her. She doesn't like mine. But you know what? That makes her happy, and mine's make me happy. And that's all that matters, isn't it? What a good bit of thing to end on. You do you. Okay. We've barely touched routines, so I think next time we'll probably do a bit more on routines. And then we will at some point start to go on to leadership and management and training and recruitment. Oh, my favourite topics. They're all my favourite topics, actually. I get excited every time we come up with a topic. But yeah, so next time probably finish a bit more routines, because there's still some stuff to be said. No, we'd get through like 4 questions, that's fine. Yeah, got a lot to say, don't you? But thank you. Thanks for your time. No problem.